Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Jitson Independent High School Class Debate Competition. Our topic for today is students should never be forced to repeat a year at school. On my right is the government team from A to B, consisting of Miss Chen Yu as the first speaker, Miss Yi Bing as the second speaker, Miss Zi Yu as the third speaker, and Miss Xin Yue as the fourth speaker. And on my left is the opposition team from A to A, consisting of A1A, consisting of Mr. Wilson as the first speaker, Mr. Jillian Kun as the second speaker, Mr. Chong Jun as the third speaker, and Mr. Wen Shen as the fourth speaker. Now I would like to introduce our team of educators. Miss Yong-er and Mr. Jared as the chief educator, and the other educators are Miss Fion and Miss Yong-er. I, Siddharthan, will be the chairperson for this debate, and Yoyuan will be the timekeeper. Now I'm going to introduce the rules of today's debate competition. Firstly, the maximum speaking duration time is 5 minutes for each speaker and 4 minutes for reply speech. There is no extra time given. Next, during the rebuttal, members should not bring up any new arguments or new evidence except on direct refutation of material which has already been presented. Then, member will only speak when called upon by the speaker. There should not be any heckling. Besides, all speakers should attempt to both deliver at least one POI and to accept one POI during the course of the debate. There is no continuous POIs allowed as it is considered as heckling. Furthermore, the first minute of each constructive speech is considered protected time during which no POI can be made. In addition, no POI and new main point may be made during the reply speech. Moreover, the government team must define the resolution. The definition must be accepted unless it is undebatable or unreasonable. Lastly is the allocated time for the competition. Time given is 5 minutes. The first bell will ring after the speaker speaks for 1 minute like this. After 1 minute, member of the opposition team can raise the POI. After the speaker has spoken for 4 minutes, the bell will ring like this. POIs can still be made after this. POI's time given is 15 seconds. After the bell rang, the speaker will have to stop. And after the speaker has spoken for 5 minutes, the bell will ring twice. The speaker will have to stop. Now, I call upon the first speaker of the government team to present her case. Time given is 5 minutes. Please begin.
Good morning to the educators, judges, my respected opponents, and the members on the floor. The topic for today's debate is that students should never be forced to repeat a year in school, and our team strongly agree with this. My name is Wei Tianyu, and I, as the first speaker, will be giving the definition of today's debate and giving out our team's first point. Yong Yibing, as the second speaker, will be rebutting the opponent team and giving out our team's second and third point. The third speaker, Su Ziyi, will be rebutting the opponent team and summarizing our team's case. And Joyce Lim, the fourth speaker, will be giving the reply speech and summarizing the whole debate. So first of all, repeating a year is also known as grade retention, non-promotion, or failing a grade. Students who do not reach a given standard of learning at the end of a year are required to repeat that year of learning by joining a class of younger students the following academic year. For students at secondary school level, grade repetition is usually limited to the particular subject or classes that a student has not passed. According to the National Association of School Psychologists, in year 2003, as many as 15% or more than 2.4 million American students are held back and repeat a grade each year. Other studies have found that between 30% and 50% of all students are retained at least one by the time they are freshmen in high school. Now for our first point. Grade repetition is harmful to a student's chance of academic success as Retained students would be older and more mature than their peers, and also repeating a lot of what they have already learned the previous year would bore them. It will directly discourage them from doing their best if they believe that they will fail nonetheless. They are already trying their best but may never reach their target for passing. Making students repeat a year effectively marks them out as underachievers, and this could make them feel inadequate and could become the target of bullying. Professor Andrew Martin says the research found the students who repeated did not only suffer academically, but they also struggle in other ways, such as they tend to be less likely to do their homework, they have more days absent from school, they tend to be a little bit lower on academic engagement and motivation skills. They were lower in academic confidence, and they were lower in their general self-esteem. Professor Martin also said that the study published in the British Education Research Journal found there were more effective ways to help students than repeating, which is providing an educational response to these students. That means we identify the problems or issue at hand, then provide target assistance to the child. So our team strongly agreed that students should never be forced to repeat a year in school. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jenny. The first speaker of the government team has spoken for 3 minutes and 26 seconds. Next, I will call upon the first speaker of the opposition team to present his case. Given his also 5 minutes. Please begin.
Thank you, Chairperson and timekeeper. A very good morning to the honorable educators, members of the floor, and the government team. The motions of today's debate will be students should never be forced to repeat a year at school. I'm Wilson, and as the first speaker of the opposite team, I'm going to redefine the topic and give the first point of today's theme, which is helping students to keep up the pace. And our second speaker, Jane Kun, will be doing the rebuttal and giving the second and third point, which is giving out awareness messages and giving benefits to students. The third speaker, Chong Jun, will also be doing the rebuttal and strengthening our points, while the fourth speaker, Wilson, will be giving the reply speech. Okay. First of all, we agree with the definition given by the government team. However, we, the opposite team, believe that this statement is false, and we strongly disagree that students should not be forced to repeat a year at school. So, before I start with my speech, the first speaker from the government team has tried to tell you that this system has led to personal issues such as depression or any mental problems. This is wrong because we are talking about the system today. The system itself is good and it gives many benefits, but it's not caused by other issues such as the students' personal issue, depression, or anything. So now I would like to start by giving out the main point. Retention might sound like a nightmare or a horrible decision decided by the school, but actually it gives students a chance to catch up with the pace. Imagine a student failing both in the midterm exam and final exam. Think behind it. Why does he fail it? Is it because of the questions which were difficult, or because of the teacher who forget to give the exam scope? Probably. But the main reason why he failed is because that he doesn't understand most of the lessons taught by the teacher. In this condition, he will face retention, but at the same time, he is also be given an opportunity to catch up the pace with others. If we do not do so and promoted him to the next grade, he might face an even worse condition, which is he can't manage to do the work in the next grade, as it's even harder and even hard to understand it than the grade before. Other than that, if weaker students are promoted, the gap between them and the stronger students will become further and further. Eventually, they will end up couldn't keeping up the pace with the others, and so being set up for further failures. Actually, retention benefits students as it helps to support students to master the skills of learning, improves their stability and familiarity for being in the same grade 2 years in a row, and is most beneficial when the child that is retained receives intensive interventions specific to the areas in which they struggle through the retention. According to the human characteristics and school learning published by Benjamin Bloom, If weak students are given sufficient time and resources to achieve mastery, the differences between more and less able students will diminish. And achieving mastery has potentially profound effects on positive self-beliefs and motivations to learn. The fact that retained students had an extra year to learn the materials that had led them to their retention not only helped them to learn those materials more effectively in the first year following retention, but also resulted in more positive self-beliefs and give them a stronger basic for learning new materials in subsequent school years. Hence, retention can be seen as a potentially useful intervention to counter the negative consequences of failure to learn critical academic materials. Those type of students will begin to thrive once they are developmentally on grade level. Holding students back in early education prevents them from being held back later on. Without being held back, it makes the student to graduate with not exceeding the minimum qualification of any grades. It makes the student not prepared for facing the cruel and harmful society. He or she might encounter even bigger problems in life and don't have the ability to solve it. So retention is the lesser of the devil than the cruel society, as it gives a second chance for students to learn and study to be a mature person. Retention has no negative impact on graduation. Being held back did delay students' graduation from high school by 0.63 years, but being older for their grade did not reduce their probability of graduating or owning a diploma or receiving a regular diploma. New research from Harvard Graduate School of Education Professor Martin West tells a nuanced and evidence-based story about grade retention, finding that contrary to critics' fear, repeating the same grade does not reduce students' chance of completing high school. In fact, it improves their preparedness for high school and their performance while enrolled. Now let me end my speech with a quote: "Studying is like rowing upstream, not to advance is to drop back." In conclusion, we the Oppo team still strongly disagree with today's motion, which is students should never be forced to repeat a year at school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. The first speaker of the opposition team has spoken for 5 minutes and 14 seconds. Next, I'll call upon the second speaker of the government team to present her case. The time given is also 5 minutes. Please begin.
Good morning, educators, my respectful opponents, MC, timekeeper, and members on the floor. Allow me, as the second speaker from the government team, to rebut the first speaker of the opposition team's argument and to present my views in support of the motion that this House believes that students should never be forced to repeat a year at the school. Let us first have a look at what the first speaker from the opposition team has said. He stated their stand that retaining system helps students to keep up their pace. But can you ensure that students who are retained will work harder or they will lose their motivation to learn? Getting held back influences anxiety because of being mocked or being humiliated, and usually be laughed a lot about the class and people will see you as unsmart. Moreover, repeating the same class usually will not be helpful because you know all the information and you have lack of motivation. Repeating class like math will sometimes be hard because you will know the whole unit and the whole unit worth of time is wasted in math. Now, I will be speaking on why grade retention causes social isolation as well as time and financial loss. Repeating a grade might sound great on paper, but it is not so great when it comes time to make that decision. Unfortunately, forcing a child to repeat a year typically causes more problems than it solves. Students who have been required to repeat a grade are more likely to have confidence issues and social issues moving forward. Because of lower self-esteem, social isolation is common among students who have repeated. Once they are separated from their classmates, students may struggle to remain friends. Besides, communicating will be more difficult because of age gap. Overcoming this obstacle is difficult, especially since placing them in different grades may dramatically change their position in life overcoming years. According to a 2018 national survey by Cigna, loneliness levels have reached an all-time high, with nearly half of 20,000 US teenagers reporting they sometimes feel alone. Among these 20,000 teenagers, 40% of these teenagers will drop out from school. Thus, our team strongly agree that students should never force repeat a year in school. Besides, there are also time, financial, and other implications in the grade retention issue. An additional year of school can be expensive and time-consuming. Annual cost schooling vary widely, but the direct and indirect costs at educating a child for an additional year can be burden to impoverished family. The detained student will also lose a few years of time where they can be working and earning money instead of getting great retention, which fails to help them and eventually goes to wastage anyway. Before I take my seat, allow me to reaffirm my team's stance, which is this House believes that students should never forced to repeat a year at school. It is evident that it often does more harm than good for struggling students. So we should really think and look at what options are available to keep up with peers their same age. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yiping. The second speaker of the government team has spoken for 3 minutes and 10 seconds.
And
Yes. Next, I will call upon the second speaker of the opposition team to present his case. Time given is 5 minutes. Please begin.
Good morning to my honorable adjudicators, members of the floor, and lastly, my dear government team. My name is Jin Kun, and I'm the second speaker from the opposition team. First of all, my team strongly disagree about today's motion, and that is students should never be forced to repeat a year at school. First of all, I would like to rebut the point given by the second speaker of the government team. You said that if the student repeat, if the student repeat a year in school, he would face social isolation. Okay, now, if they face if the underperformed students being promoted to the next level, it will eventually also get bullied by the other students. Why I say they got bullied by the other students? The other student bullied him because of he is stupid. he lack of knowledge, but he also got promoted to the next level. Okay, so he also can got teasing. Okay, now please let me continue to my second point. Without the implementation of repeating a year in school, there would be a significant amount of lazy students having some misconception about the aim of that particular system and purposely putting less or even no effort on studying. Okay, but this, if you promote them to the next level, the lazy students, they do not put out any effort, also get promoted to the next grade, yes? And this is very unfair to those students who work hard until late night. Okay, very unfair for them. Okay, now the flaw in the educational system, I think that this is a motivation to let the students, to motivate the students to step out of their comfort zones and to work harder for promotion. Okay, now as the saying goes, no pain, no gain. By implementing repeating a year in school educational system, parents will be more aware or more in the know with their students' academic progression, and they will react accordingly to it. If students are promoted to the next grade without any basic requirements, that according underperforming students will affect the entire class, because the teacher of that class will forced to deal with the underprepared students and forced to deal with the hardworking students. Okay, now I will continue to my third point. I think that retention may be taught to benefit students in a number of ways, including improved academic achievement, increased emotional maturity, and increased educational attainment, and higher post-educational earning. They may also be benefits to students if the threat of retention is the retention system is sufficiently high, then it may motivate them to work harder than they otherwise should. That is evidenced by the Public Policy Institute of California. They said that we found that students retained in the first or second grade can significantly improve their grade level skills during the repeated year. And also, they found that gains in reading skills among students retained in the first grade are significant and widely expressed. Okay, now a change in institutional policy has the potential to change the behavior of the individuals. Thus, in a dynamic setting, one might imagine that retention affects behavior, such that students who otherwise would be perform poorly do not happen because of the real threat of retention. Unfortunately, this type of outcome is difficult to detect, so we estimate only the potential benefits to students who actually are retained. Okay. The measurement of benefits is somewhat more difficult than the calculation of the cost because, as noted previously, the literature on retention benefits presents mixed feelings. Much of the research on the possible benefits related to grade retention is fraught with problems, including data that lack of detail necessary to identify the retention effect and with statistical needs. Okay. In a nutshell, I want to repeat my themes, and I disagree about today's motion. Students should never be forced to repeat a year in school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jin Kun. The second speaker of the opposition team has spoken for 5 minutes and 12 seconds. Next, I would like to call upon the third speaker of the government team to present her case. Time given is 5 minutes.
A very good morning to the honorable judges and my respected opponents. The topic today is students should never be forced to repeat a year at school, and our team is strongly believe that this statement is true. And the second speaker has thought that the retention can improve their grade levels in school, but this is wrong because there are no such strong evidence that support these points. According to PISA's 2009 education ranking report, the top nations in reading, math, and science are China, Korea, Finland, Singapore, New Zealand, Japan, and Canada, and grade retention is uncommon or restricted in all of these countries.
POI, please.
No. Studies show that low retention rates, about 3%, include UK, Iceland, Finland, and the English-speaking countries, emphasize universal education at higher levels, and grade repetition rates are low. And for the problems that they say that promotion can affect the entire class because of the students cannot catch up the class and teachers difficult to teach, but it is unfair to say that because retaining system and automatically promotion systems are not the main factors of these problems, and it is foolishness of holding back students a year if the problem did not solve in root. For example, if students were to spend another year in the same grade, what type of instruction would she receive in the areas she finds most difficult? Will a new teaching approach or new materials be used, or will the teacher do the same thing as last year? How do you know that doing it over again would make a difference? Realistically, will students be able to meet the required standards to be promoted next year? Will they be more motivated to learn and try, or will they be embarrassed and further withdraw from learning? What will happen to their peer supports and friendships? How will they be affected by retentions? And for that on, studies shows that most of the students gain in poor academic due to the short school years, frequent teacher absence, limited supplies, poorly qualified teachers, large classes, multi-age classes, double shifts, and lack of parents' attendance, and not only the systems of promotions or retentions. The best solutions of it is to provide a lot more curriculum support material like Khan Academic and IXL to allow students to practice and learn skills and have monitored progress. In a 2006 literature review which sponsored by the International Academy of Education, the educational physiology researcher note that the research suggests that if the root of the problem has been solved, return system is not needed anymore. Automatic promotion is a preferable option provided it is supplemented by additional intervention strategies of early intervention, remedial instruction, parent involvement, designed to facilitate student success. In the case to improve students' ability and academic performance, there are better ways that provide more pros than the retention system. According to the ADG goals, researchers find out that students who try one-to-one lessons or online courses may offer them a great opportunity to maintain academic successfully. And for the poor economic family students, the campaign for grade-level reading works with students and family to help these low-income families succeed in their educational careers by targeting better grade achievements. In conclusion, there may be many reasons why a student does not do well and not for the systems, and teachers and parents should take a good look at the root of the problem rather than using a one-size-fits-all approach to hold back students who fail to live up to a certain standards. And last of all, we as the arithmetic team strongly believe that students should never be forced to repeat a year in school because there are various effective ways which benefits lots that repetition can be used to help students stop struggling in poor academic skills and change their study attitude or behavior. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ziyu. The first speaker of the government team has spoken for 5 minutes and 5 seconds. Next, the third speaker of the opposition team to present his case. Time given is 5 minutes. Please begin.
Good morning to the judges, the members of the floor, and my dear opponent. So, today's motion is students should never be forced to repeat a year in school. We strongly disagree with today's motion. I'm Hugh Chong Jun, the third speaker of this team, and I will be doing rebuttals and summarizing up their points. Okay, first of all, the first speaker of the government team said that retention may cause us low self-esteem. Okay. I think from what I acknowledge, our school have a place called counseling department. Inside of there have a lot of counselors and professional counselors and teachers. So if anyone in our school met problems, psychologically problems, we can go there and find them. They may counsel us, then we can express our negative thoughts and everything will be fine. And we gain more positive energy and we will strive harder. Secondly, the second speaker and the first speaker talked about age issues. I would like to say that if I go to the college and I gain a PhD certificate, I need to spend 8 years at university, right? And what's the wrong of being graduated from secondary school at 19 years old or 20 years old? It's nothing more. If you go to university, you get a degree, you are still earlier than PhD who come out from the university who spent 8 years in there. So, we think that age issue is not a really good thing to worry about. So the second speaker said that we may face social issues. I think social issues is not a really big problem. I think that retention can make you improve your social skills and make more friends in school. For example, my friend, Dave, he's a retention people. He's 18 years old this year and he still studying with me who is 17 years old. He made a lot of friends in this year and the next year. So I think that retention can make your social skills and social life better. Yes, please.
This is just your friend. It's not all retaining students are like your friends. Some students retain, they are low self-esteem and they may lack of communication with them.
Yeah, I said already, if you are facing low self-esteem and you have no friends in school, you can go to the counseling sessions and they can give you more better solutions. Then you can face the world better and more positive energy.